that's not this week. Hey, everybody, it is Seth Apter. I am here to share with you my newest release with PaperArtsy. So, it's a good day when I get to show you all the designs that I've made months ago and have been waiting to share with you. We so appreciate you being here. It is a wonderful day with new stamps and a wonderful week with lots of new products from PaperArtsy. So I am going to begin and share and show what I have to share and show with you, for you, in just a minute or two. But before I do that, I want to make sure you all know that it's not just my week, but it is also a full week of PaperArtsy releases. Yesterday, Lynn Perella released new stamps and maybe stencils, if I remember correctly, but definitely stamps. And they are available to be seen right now and to be gotten on the PaperArtsy sites. And they're being sold, of course, worldwide at select independent shops. Shop your favorite. Tomorrow, there is Tracy Scott. And I'm excited because I've seen her stuff already. So I know it's good and you are all going to love it. It's the same time, the same place. So definitely tune in to that. And then, not this week, but if you are a planner, it is now time immediately to make some plans to, drumroll please, travel to France to spend a week with PaperArtsy at their home and with, drumroll please, once again, Alison Balmer. So she has the next grouping, we want to call it, in the artsy crafts retreat, and that is Alison Balmer teaching a full week of art, culture, and French food. So you're all going to want to check that out. There's just a few spots left. They went on sale yesterday. So now is the time. If you have any questions about that, you can reach out to the PaperArtsy people. I want to welcome you all. I see all these wonderful names popping up, and I see a lot of shop keeps here. So I want to make sure that anybody watching live knows that these stamps that I'm releasing today, they're only available at very select shops. And many of the shops are here now. So they're gonna, throughout the video, they're gonna be leaving their comment with a link to their shop. Support them. They support me, they support the industry, and we need to keep them alive and kicking. So thank you all. And thank you for watching live and on recording if you are somebody who's just interested in seeing what I have to share. So we're going to do that really, really quick, fast. Welcome to Sue and Michelle, Stampers Grove, Paper and Ink Boutique, The Artistic Stamper, Michelle, Kim, Wendy, Helen, Joe, Rhonda, of course, PaperArtsy, leaving some comments, Loie, and these shops, they're going to take care of you because we have some people here from the UK, we have some people here from the US, we have some people here from France, Canada. So no matter where you are, you're going to be able to get this release. And you know what? I know that you're all here for the release. So I am going to flip the camera in 15 seconds and share. But there are some comments in here about how can I get them? Where can I purchase it? So Brenda, you can look on these comments as they're coming through, and you can see which shops are here from the US. Also, anybody can always go to the PaperArtsy blog or their website to see what stockists there are throughout the world. All right, it's time. I can't hold myself back anymore. We are shifting gears. We are looking down onto my new release, which is that. All right, hard for me to believe that I am starting today with ESA 49. 49, that's my 49th stamp set. But more than that, I also have 50 and I have 51. So what I'm going to do today is just show you quickly all three sets. And then I'm going to share with you some inspiration behind how I designed it, why I designed it, and I'm going to share with you some art samples. What I would absolutely love to do today, because it's always exciting to see what people love and maybe what people don't, So there's 3 sets. There's just 3 sets. You gotta remember 3 numbers, 49, 50, 51. I'm gonna ask you as we move through which one of these 3 are your favorite. They all have 7 stamps. They are all the gorgeous paper artsy, deeply etched. Look how deep those etches are. Red rubber cling stamps cut to perfection. Now, I've been there, so I know that the paper artsy people spend hours, and that may be minimizing it, literally baking these stamps and cutting them. Thank you for your service. All right, so let's look at ESA 49. These are what I call the classic Seth stamps. Last trio of stamp sets I released a while back were specifically for my retreat in France with PaperArtsy. So they were very en français, s'il vous plaît, and a little bit off from my traditional style. So this time, I just made sure to go back to the true Seth, the grunge, the abstract, the mark making, the words, the letters, the random scribbles, the splatters, all those things that I love so much. So yes, I'm gonna just tip that like that so you can see it somewhat close up. We're gonna spend more time on this. This is ESA 49. We have ESA 50. We'll linger down here so you can see all of them. You're just gonna see all the classic Seth stuff. There's some circles, but they're all kind of grungy, lots of mark making. You're gonna have some linearity in there. You're gonna have words, you're gonna have text, you're gonna have marks, and you're gonna have a lot of little details that may not be so obvious when you first look at the stamps. But you'll see them when I show you the artwork. And then we have ESA 51. More is more. So we just put as many stamps as we could put in there without making them so minuscule that you can't even see them. So these are the Seth stamps, and I want to take you through and do a little bit of a deeper dive with each one. So really briefly, as we walk through, I just want to explain some of my choices. You know I live in New York City, or if you don't, you do now. And a lot of what I do is based on the inspiration I see in a very urban place. However, I do like to bring in some, I don't know, some softness, less hard edge sometimes. I like to bring in nature. So you're not going to see that much nature in the stamps, but even these grungy stamps can be used that way, and I'm going to share and show with you. So we have here, for example, this is just traditional Seth. It's linear, but it's a little off, it's a little wonky. It's very strong, it's bold, it could be used as a background lightly, it could be used as a focal stamp. You have to have some words. So we have a word discover, and I created and designed this font so that it would look almost like a hand carved stamp, like, you know, you took your craft knife and just did it at home in your eraser. We have look within. I couldn't just leave the letters, so we have them in these wonky concentric circles. I love a good X, I love a plus, I love a cross, so we have that with some scratches in it. Who doesn't love a little, what does that say? It says nothing. And then the largest stamp of the batch is that beautiful, illegible, unreadable script alphabet with a little bit of flavor over it. And then, I don't know, this might become my favorite stamp. We have, this could be a leaf, it could be a tree, it could be so much, but I'm really happy to bring in some nature. Let me share with you how I use that. Let's start with this guy. So here's my sample. And again, I think a lot of people sometimes when they see my work, when they see my stamps, they think city, urban. Yeah, Lois says this could be a feather. Absolutely, love that. But my stamps don't need to be used as I use them. They can be used in so many different ways. So I really, you'll see, I've leaned into some nature and some softness here. with this. So, I love that leaf so much. Had to do it twice. You're going to see how special it is with just all those scratches and gaps and mixed media-fied element. And then the bottom, which, supposed to be roots. I think it is roots. I drew some extra roots there. And then again, you'll see there's a little bit of a theme here. This is not part of the PaperArtsy. That says plant a tree, but that is the story behind this piece of work. And then there's discover. And again, if you look very closely, I really, 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 really think that just captures a homemade look. It's so imprecise, which really should be my middle name. So that's the first piece of art for ESA 49. And thank you guys for the positive feedback for the sample and the stamps. So appreciate you all. Again, in keeping with this softer feel, and to share and to show that you don't have to have a hard edge in your style to use the stamps, we have this one. And this one uses two stamps from this. It uses Look Within, and it uses this little guy, my themic writing line. So you can just see up here, there's a lot of other elements in here because you know me, more is more. So there's a lot of plants and there's a lot of really tiny words that you can barely read and splatters and scratches and all that. But the look within, along with the plant, becomes really the focal point. And I think symbolically it has so much meaning. And then right underneath it, I think that's going to become a favorite too. I certainly want to use a lot. I love this. It's so simple and you can use it in so many different ways. I don't have other samples to show you here, but if I did this, I could do it there. I could do the same thing there and do there, and I could create a box. I could extend this and make this a border or a border line. I could use just the tip of those scratchy pseudo letters and put it right at the edge. This could be an underline, an emphasis. I could do that 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times down the page, and I can journal in between. I could go ahead and take my pen or my ink marker, and I could extend all those little elements. And yes, Lois says it's like stitching, and yep, I could definitely stitch right over that as well. All right, so let's move on. I have more samples to show you at the end, but I'm going to move on and not let ESA 49 hog the space, but move on to ESA 50. Again, if you're just joining me live, there are 3 sets that I'm releasing, 49. You just saw in 50, which is here, and then 51. I love contrast, and I've developed these sets so that you can use any single one and create a lot of contrast, or use all 3, mix and match, because they're all designed to work together and absolutely designed to work with my prior stamps. So you can see these 2, especially right here, so curvy, so soft. And, even when you look really, really closely, there's a little postmark in there. That softness, that curvy edge just goes further and further. This I've fallen in love with. I'll show you the sample. You can use this in a million ways. And then we have that, which is, maybe a half moon. Maybe it's a little bit of a circle that you fill in the remainder with other colors. We got your mark making stamps. Got to have the word. Got to have the phrase, magical thinking. And then it wouldn't be me without some strong linear elements. These are not just lines, though. So when you look at them quite close up, you see there's actually kind of lines within the lines and breaks and little bits and pieces. So let's look at the samples here. Let's see, what do we have here? Let's focus on this one, which uses 2 of the stamps. Again, leaning into my softer side, lighter, brighter, lots of botany in there. But this stamp right here, I just think works so beautifully with the strength of that and the soft and subtleness of what's underneath. And again, even that little postmark, which you may not see right away, but you will see. Could be a fishbowl. I love that idea. Thank you for the positive reaction to the samples. And then magical thinking. I love the fact that not only does that stamp express that phrase, magical thinking, but it expresses in such a way that it's quite dynamic as a design because of those circles and lines and elements. But even more, and I've done this on all the pieces I've used it. Let's see if I can get close enough for you to see. I've sort of used the gaps in between to have elements come out of it. So, for example, this is just bursting with leaves and florals and botany, and they're just being grown out of the magical thinking. And I think that's kind of magical in and of itself. All right, let's continue. All right, we're going to go a little bolder and stronger and a little bit more graphic. This is very soft and subtle for me. This is much more bold and graphic. This one, oh, it's just the beginning of how I've started to use these. I love these circles. I think that they're just so cool. And so here I've stamped them out a bunch of times on cardstock. I've drawn them in with color. This is the normal size, but you can see it's so easy to trim it down and get smaller sizes. I've cut it off at the edge so you can get just some interest as if this is still going on. But there's just so much you can do with these. I have a whole thing I'm working on in the background with some spinning wheels and which I think is really, really cool. Yeah, spinning top, exactly. Now, I want you to also notice that the word inspire from the set is also in there. And then there's a lot of other details that may or may not be so obvious because, again, the contrast, some of these elements are used as strong focal points, and some of them are used to get lost in the background. So, this little guy here, I think some people will love that and some people won't get it at all. It's just the perfect stamp to just press into the background to give more interest. So if you look behind the word inspire, you see those elements. It just easily adds some detail, some interest, the mark making, and those little circles. Well, they're not even circles, they're wonky shapes. It'd be great to take a watercolor, some watercolor and a thin brush and fill them in with different colors. There's lots you can do with it. It's very linear and organic at the same time, which is really kind of my jam. And then I have to tell you that you might not have guessed this, but see those lines, those lines, those lines. That is that stamp, but just the edge going in the opposite direction. So you don't need to use the entire stamp. You don't need to use the stamp as it was designed. It is all about using it your way. And it's so important for me to share so that you realize that there are 7 stamps in here, but really there's like 376 stamps in here. And there might be more, but I got tired of counting. I also want to make mention that these little guys right here, these little guys, they're cut up from a stamp that's in the next set. I'm going to share and show you that one as well. All right, so again, ESA 50, 2 samples. Let's move those to the side. And where does that leave us? It leaves us with ESA 51. I asked you guys to pick a favorite, and honestly, it's not fair because I have a really hard time choosing favorites. I love my stamp sets, I really do, but I have to say that these 3 sets are among the most favorite I've released, maybe ever with PaperArtsy, definitely in the top 3 or 4. Right, I love swatching. I love swatching. You can't get enough swatching. And I've done a lot of swatching stamps, but I really wanted to do it with a twist. So we have what is theoretically a very wonky swatching stamp here. But yes, lots of the squares are already filled in. There are a million and one ways to swatch and a million and one ways to find swatching stamps. So this gives a little bit of a difference. Again, we have the same fonts and same styles for a word, believe, and for a phrase, make memories. We have your strong linear element here, and always remember it's presented almost like stacks, but it could also be used that way. Got my circle, you got my plus, all the things I love. I have been wanting to create an Enzo. If you don't know what an Enzo is, ENSO, please look it up. It's incredibly beautiful and symbolic. This is my version of that, but I love the fact that it almost looks like sprayed water splashing a little bit. And then this is just very me. It's very New York City buildings. Let me show you the samples with this. Let me just show you first. In this piece right here, I decided, you know what? Normally I go more is more, and there are, 17,000 stamps that I use. And so what I decided to do this time was go more is more, but just use one stamp from this set. So that stamp is Believe. In the earlier samples I showed you from the other sets, I stamped them on separate paper, and then I cut it out to my liking and glued it on. And in this case, I made the choice just to stamp it directly onto the artwork. I think what's really interesting, and the reason why I did this way, is because this is obviously the piece that draws your eye first. It's the biggest element. It's dark, so it contrasts. It's over the lightest strip, so it just pulls you in. But I think that it's actually that word that is the star of the show, because even though it's smaller, even though it's back in the corner, even though you might go there first, we as human beings, we look to read, we look to see the word, and the word is what gives the heart and soul to the art piece. So that's Believe. All right, this one, Make Memories. I did the same thing. I said, let me put as much as I can into an art piece and just use one stamp. I just want to make mention that this one is a little bit very traditional Seth-like, in the sense that it's very sort of textural, gritty, layered, lots of marks. I mean, really tons of mark, very linear, and not that soft. And so, yes, I challenged myself to go very soft, and I created this one. And again, bringing in the fact that you can have nature, you can have softness, you can have shabby chic, you can have any pretty. Sometimes I call it pretty gritty. You can have that as well. And so here we have Make Memories. Once again, we have a little bit of the additional supporting elements just coming out of the edges. We have the dragonfly coming out of there. Plus, we have all the gazillion other details here. And yes, I counted, there are a gazillion. And then, just because it's got to be fun, this element right here at the edge, because I couldn't quite hold myself back using only one, I threw in the end piece of that just right there and there. Again, just to share and show that you can use these stamps in a very different way than they look when you first see them. All right, I got one more for this, and then I got a few samples that combine them all. All right, so how to use the swatching stamp. So this is the swatching stamp. Now, I just used it straight on. I thought I really wanted to share and show what it looked like when you just used it. So separate piece of cardstock, stamped it over the grid, left it as is. I used black ink, deeply, madly in love with both the numbering there, as well as all those scratches. And then, just so you see, I added that little element there as well. I kind of think about it almost like a little bit like like it could be a postmark, it could be a chop. And then in red especially, I just think that's gonna just be on the surface of everything I make. And you know what? it was really important for me to use this as a focal point because sometimes my art doesn't make sense in the traditional way. If you have a stamp that's a tree or a person or a face or an animal, it gives you the direct idea that yes, I know what this is about. But for me, loving abstract work and creating abstract stamps, it's like I want the world to know that something as random as these eight scratchy squares could serve as a focal point. It doesn't have to make sense if you know what I mean. And I'm going to show you a few more like that as well. So really happy with how this one came out. And because it's sort of felt to me like it was a little bit of a postmark and a little bit of a, maybe this is something you might find in a science catalog. I threw in all these, it says Exhibit 7, specimen, all these numbers, registered, etc., the words of a specific type, just, to pull this together. All right, I got 2 more samples for you. And these samples I'm showing you last because they basically cut across this. I am a firm believer that if you buy into any one of my products, you should be able to get your money's worth, which means that you should be able to use everything in multiple ways and that everything should work with everything else. So you could choose your favorite. If all you have in your budget is one, choose your favorite, and you're going to be able to make a million different things with the variety of these stamps, using them all different ways. However, if you do decide to invest in all 3, they will all work together, as I'm about to show you. And even more, they will work with any stamps of mine that you have before. And in truth, they probably work with my stencils and die cuts and all of that as well. All right, so let's just go and show you this one. So this one is the perfect example in my mind of something that's completely abstract being the focal point. I don't know about you, but when I look at this, I go right there. And part of that is because it's bold, it has some color. I don't always have bold color, but I'm digging and loving that bold color. So this, let me just share what's in here, is that stamp, used that way, stamped on both the paper that's collaged over this plus the background. This, my friend, is that. And you can see even with a dark ink, because of those gaps and scratches, that color comes through. I love that. I'm a firm believer also in outlining, so I love the idea of outlining this and adding these extensions as well, kind of to make it my own. So that is the stamp from ESA 49. Let's go to 50. All right, you probably noticed the word inspire. That's the obvious one, inspire. That's stamped on a larger piece of cardstock and cut. It's cut down, unlike this one. I didn't cut it around and shape it. I just used the entire rectangle. And then, by the by, you may or may not have noticed, I'm not going to ask you to figure it out, but this stamp, the edge of that, which I will use 1,000 times, it's all at the bottom right there. It's just randomly stamped there. It's also randomly stamped right there and right there. It's a way to get your own visual eye and your own story into a piece of art using your imagination. I got one more piece for you and we'll wind down. This one, I love this one too. Really happy with how the artwork came out, and I think in part was because I have been so inspired by my own stamps. I don't know what that sounds like, but that's the truth. So we have this one, which one I call Memory. I love the bold nature of this. And I think this is just very, very strong. And this includes just 2 of my stamps. All right, I think it's pretty obvious, but I really wanted to share and show how this one looks. And this one looks like that. So you can see it. I'll be using that in the background a ton of times, but here it's really part of the focal point. And then I went and I used the Enzo because I needed to make sure you saw how that looked stamped out. And then I filled in the center, which is actually in there. You can see the little circle. I did that to make this different. There's lots of text backgrounds, and I really wanted to make mine a little bit more unique. And so I drew these lines in, and my sense of it is that there will be art pieces that I make where maybe this corner is red and this corner is blue and this corner is yellow and this corner is green. I think this also lends itself to maybe adding some elements around each of these lines, maybe using this line to draw in maybe very bold, large letters, something over. So you have letters over letters. But I really like how that one came out. All right, so we're gonna do, for those of you who are on the live who joined very late, we're gonna do a little bit of a outro. We have ESA 49, 7 stamps from PaperArtsy. I just released an hour ago, deeply etched red rubber cling stamps. We have ESA 50, these beautifully grungy Seth-esque stamps, but that I think my samples showed that they can be used in very varying ways. Soft, subtle, nature, bold, grungy, you name it. I think if it's your hand, you can do it. And then you also saw the samples. So I'm coming back, Seth Apter, in my studio with my new stamps. Very excited about this release. I just have a few other things to say. There are lots of stockists who are watching this video and supporting PaperArtsy, supporting me, supporting this whole industry. They're here from independent shops. Only independent shops carry PaperArtsy products, and they are here and they're leaving, and they have left the links to their shops. They're all over the world. So no matter where you are, you'll be able to find these things. I'm going to ask them if they're still here. Please leave your links. I also want to make mention that if you come across this and you don't have time to click on the links, if you go to PaperArtsy, go to their website or go to their blog or look at the release, specifically my blog release today, there's a huge blog post that I put up. You will see at the very end of it a list of stockists around the world who carry their products. I just got a comment from PaperArtsy congratulating me on number 50 and actually surpassing to number 51. I also want to make mention from a purely self-promotional moment is that for the first time, I've decided that all of my samples that I've made for the release are actually available. So they are all via my website at sethapter.com. You can actually purchase all the artwork, and there's more in there as well that I didn't share. So if you're interested in the art, you can look at that. I want to highlight right before I go that PaperArtsy, there's so much to PaperArtsy. They're an incredible company, incredible group of people, and they've chosen a very special group of designers. Yesterday, Lynn Perella had her release, and tomorrow, Tracy Scott is sharing her release. I've seen them both, so I know they're both great. And if you're interested in seeing more about those, you can look on the PaperArtsy site or on PaperArtsy YouTube to see Lynn's from yesterday, of course mine today, but then come tomorrow at the same time, same place to see Tracy live share what she has. It's incredible. She's amazing. And also I want to make mention that yesterday, just yesterday, PaperArtsy opened registration for the next retreat that they're hosting at their home in France. I mean, think of those words: retreat, hosting, home, France, PaperArtsy. I did one there last year. I can only recommend it 1,000-fold, but I can recommend it 1,000-fold in one because Alison Balmer, amazing designer, amazing artist, amazing person. She is hosting the one in June. There are literally just a couple spots left. So now is the time. And trust me when I say this is an adventure and an experience that you'll never forget. And I'm happy to say that some of the people who came to mine loved it so much that they're going back with Allison. All right, gang. A million thank yous. Thank you for watching, both live and or on recording, and thank you for supporting, my career in art and my designs. Thanks to PaperArtsy for just having me and keeping me in the family for this long. And a big thank you for the stockists because really they are the core of our community. Without them, we would be in trouble. So let's keep them in business. Pop over. Don't just buy my stamps. Check out their sites because each one of them is going to have their own special product line that maybe the other ones don't. So it's really worth checking out. Thank you also for the positive feedback. Really appreciate that. I am only 5.5 minutes over what I thought I'd be. So in theft time, I did really well. All right, gang, I want to say see you soon. Stay creative. And if you, oh, last thing, always one more thing. If you do buy these and use them, please tag PaperArtsy and myself. And you know what? If you buy them in one of the independent shops, tag them as well. All right, gang. Now, Leandra has the control of this, so I'm just going to sit here and smile until she turns this off.